First of all, thanks for taking time out on a Friday, rainy evening apparently, with traffic and waterlogging. I also face the same issue while coming here. For people who have not attended this program, my name is Pujara. For people who have attended this program regularly, normally my next sentence is... And my colleague here is Eklavya Malhotra. Unfortunately, he is not here today. So I have to do double duty. I represent a company called Apohan Management Consultants. And we organize this program called Between the Lines each month. As all of you now know, it's a free and open for all program, which means each month, format is typically each month we identify a book. More often than not, it's a recently published book like today. And Eklavya, let's assume he reads the book and then he comes back and presents a summary of the book, which is a fantastic summary. He's not here. I'm not even going to remotely attempt trying to do that. I've written certain things about the book, but I'll try and cover. And then, depending on the topic of the book, we invite people from the industry and I moderate a discussion on the topic. The book sets the context and the discussion is on the topic emanating from the book. And this, we've been doing it for some time now. Today's session is our 120th session, 120. So, thank you. And it's all thanks to people like you who keep on attending such sessions and encourage us to do more. So, that is what we have today. Before I start, let me first start with thanking Red Brick Pebble offices. They've given us this lovely lounge space to conduct this program. We've done many programs here, but we've come back after a long time, mainly because of this issue. But I think as of now, it looks sorted. You can hear till the end, right? Great. Okay. I also would like to thank Rohan Builders and Express Book Services and Rohit Jirajani are our partners. So today's book is a book written by Pujara or Puja Pabri. She's Cheteshwar Pujara's wife. If you know Cheteshwar Pujara as a cricketer. And the book is called Unusual Memoirs and Life of a Cricketer's Wife. So essentially, she has taken us through her journey, her association with Cheteshwar, her association with the world of cricket, and what typically a partner of otherwise a well-known or successful person goes through, and what the partner goes through, all the trials and tribulations, the travels, the highs and the lows of personal and professional life. And with that as a context, we thought we will also try and do that with the Mirakurs and the Bildikers here today, which I will introduce you later. So this is a memoir, and as Puja calls it, it's an unusual memoir. While it is a memoir, it is not an autobiography or a biography of Cheteshwar Pujara. It has been written more like a diary. And imagine that when they met, and it's not a serial chronological order kind of thing. It was back and forth in terms of their lives. And very interestingly, when they met, both of them are from Rajkot. And she used to work in ICICI Bank. She's an MBA. And she had a very normal life that one would have in a retail banking operation where you stay not very far from the office. You sometimes work long hours, sometimes work weekends, you come back. Your classic middle class family that she had. The only difference was that she was far away from cricket than all of us can ever imagine. And then after a couple of years of her working, as normal things happen in an Indian family, they thought that, okay, now she's of marriageable age, she has settled down, and therefore they started looking out for her. And then, of course, it was checked that whether she has a boyfriend or a better half or whatever, and she said no. And therefore, they went around the normal way of arranged marriages and proposals and things like that. And then through, as is always happens, this time not an auntie, but an uncle, they got a proposal from this Pujara family. And the boy's name turned out to be Cheteshwar. And she didn't know anything about who this person was. She didn't know anything about cricket. And typically, traditional middle-class Gujarati family. So first thing is, you share your profile or CVs or resume or what you want to call it. So she had to prepare her CV, including her background, education, family. I'm assuming Gujarati family, so must have written a salary also. And what she got in return was like half a page of CV, which was like copy pasted from some social media. And then she said, hey, this guy clearly doesn't want, is not interested in any of such proposals. In all probability, he has a girlfriend, he's not telling his family, and therefore he's just going through the motions. But then the families insisted, saying that, nahin, milne mein kya harj hai, at least milo to ek baar, that kind of thing. And she reluctantly met this guy. The other shocking thing was, in this arranged marriage thing, either the boy's family, especially in the same city, boy's family goes to the girl's family or vice versa. Here they were told that please meet us in Cheteshwar's mama's house, not even their house. That was another thing that, why is this arranged meeting in Maharashtrian way, the poha and chai kind of thing, happening in somebody else's house? But again, same thing, karo, theek hai, jo bhi hai, maybe they are close or whatever kind of thing. And they went. And then chit chat happened in the normal living room, and then as normal thing goes that the elders sort of gave them way, saying that, go in the other room and have a chat one-on-one kind of thing. And that, what she says in the book, really changed her life. Because what she thought was just going to be a 10-15 minute kind of thing that, hey, you looks like you're not interested, and I'm also not very happy the way you have sent me your CV, turned out to be a 1.5 hours kind of conversation. And what she writes in the book is that the elders outside ran out of topics to talk. And we were still chatting. And that's the story. And when they came back, nobody knew. And suddenly she realized that her mother said, I know Cheteshwar Pujara, I follow cricket. And that was news to their family also. So from someone who was a normal MBA kid working in a bank to eventually get married, of course engaged and then married to a well-known Indian cricketer, that's the journey that she's written. And it's in a diary form. Like I said, it's not, although it's a diary, it's not chronological kind of thing. So this marriage proposal that never happened was one. She talks about Cheteshwar, many of us might know, like many Indian cricketers or non-Mumbai cricketers, I would say, come from a very humble background. And therefore, they used to stay in a Rajkot railway colony. That's where his father worked. And there was like many of you know, railway colony would have a ground and a club and that kind of thing. And therefore, he used to practice there. And the book goes on at length to say how much effort the parents took, Cheteshwar's parents took, to train this boy right from the age of 5. Sometimes, maybe when you start reading it, it looks like as if it was forced upon him. But somewhere the father saw a spark in his son. The background is that Cheteshwar's grandfather as well as father were cricketers. Cheteshwar's grandfather played for an erstwhile Gujarat, whatever the state was, some kingdom. And Cheteshwar's father was a Ranji player for the state. So cricket was part and parcel of their life. That was their DNA in a way. And they didn't have money, for the kit, etc., etc. So the book talks about how his mother actually took a lot of pains to sort of even stitch pads from, old saris and that kind of thing, and how he practiced. Very interesting thing about Cheteshwar that comes up from his book. I know I'm saying it's not a biography, but it's very interesting that how, what should I say, spiritual Cheteshwar is. And there are a large number of mentions about some guru that the family had, and how he was deeply sort of religious, pious, as well as spiritual, how close he was to that guru. His mother passed away at quite an early age because of cancer, so he became very close to his Masi, which is maternal Masi, and how that bond between him and his Masi and him and the guru kept him always grounded in terms of what he was. And he's of course a vegetarian, teetotaler, those kind of things, but very, very deeply spiritual. And therefore, meditation, discipline, rigor became part and parcel of his life right through his professional journey. And incidentally, when we decided that we'll do this book, he was still an active player. And then the moment I announced this, that we are doing this book, within 3-4 days, he announced his retirement. So in one way, it becomes a very, very topical book to look at. And then, of course, there are a lot of other things in terms of, she traveled with him, she left her job, and then she eventually became his manager. She didn't know anything about it, but then she learned through others, friends, and that kind of thing, and started managing his career in terms of endorsements and things like that. There are a lot of travelogues from South Africa to Australia to London. Cheteshwar played a lot of county matches in the UK. So there's a lot of, incidents and anecdotes about that, and lovely photographs about him going shopping with a shopping cart in Tesco's and things like that, which is the personal part side of the story. But I think if someone is following cricket, then the most famous was the Australian series, where we went there. First match we lost horribly. If anybody remembers, I think we were 36 all out or something like that. Adelaide match, and then we went on to win the series. And it was a series. While it was a cricket series, it was a series of injuries and that kind of thing. So when 15 people went there for the first test match, only 12 of them, or only 3 of them, still remained till the end of the series. 12 people had to change because of variety of injuries. Virat Kohli was the captain, and he then recused himself because he was going the parental way. We had to fly back, etc. And then famously Ajinkya Rahane became the captain, and we won the second match. Third match got drawn, and then Gaba, we sort of captured the fort, as they call it, and she's taken that. And the most famous part was how Cheteshwar Pujara faced body blows. I don't know if many of you remember, but there were at least 15 or 20 times where he was badly hit on the body. And in spite of all the guards, etc., these people have, there are, all those days also it came in the press, but it's in the book also, where they've shown photographs of actually, when you get hit, you get that red and violet patches on your skin. And there are things like that. So there is a lot of stories about it, but I think the main thing, and that's what sets us for today's discussion, is the silent partnership part of it. That, it's always easy to say that, okay, I'm watching a test match, kind of thing as a wife, or, now they have the wives club, so they sit together. And there's always a lot of gossip. And so she goes on saying that Cheteshwar never shared or never discussed his cricket at all, even though now I started understanding cricket and I became a real expert. And the main reason or the main person who taught her cricket was Cheteshwar's father, because they used to, it was always there. And he's been shown as a very, very passionate and sometimes cruel father who made his young son do things. And it was simply a lost childhood kind of thing. No Diwali, no Dashera, no Navratri, nothing, just cricket, and cricket. But Cheteshwar never spoke anything about cricket, and therefore, it was all in the wives' enclosure, all the gossips that happened. There's always politics, there's always something happening between players selectors, players coach, players manager, so on and so forth. And very interestingly, of all the players and their wives that she interacted with, she's mentioned only one, which is R. Ashwin's wife, whom apparently they became very close. The families became close. Ashwin and Cheteshwar became close. The wives became close. The kids became close. That kind of thing. But that's the only mention of a wife in terms of by name. And imagine that, one can imagine, and easy to imagine that, okay, Cheteshwar just scored a century or a double century and comes back home or in the hotel room or whatever kind of thing. And you are the wife, and if you're spending the rest of the day and the night with him. But imagine when he's out in a duck, or, he's out at a very critical juncture and he's failed the country, and, there's always media and social media kind of thing. And imagine what would the wife, the silent partner, go through when this person walks into the room at the end of the day, tired, obviously crestfallen, etc., etc. And what goes through there for the wife's mind in terms of how to support that. So that is again a very, very interesting thing. So all in all, it's a very interesting book, just to understand, not in terms of Cheteshwar's biography or his cricketing life kind of thing, but also the back-end part of this, the background work and the background effort and the background emotions that go through for anybody who's on the front line. So whether it's a business person, whether it's a corporate people like we have here today, or it is a well-known sports personality kind of thing. So that is, in summary, a very quick kind of thing. So why you should like the book and hopefully buy the book. It is available here. I don't know what's the price. 550 rupees. And there's a QR code, so please buy the book. But it is a good book to read because of things that you don't know of a cricketer's life. And that's why it's been called an unusual memoir. If you've read Michelle Obama's book, I think it's called Becoming, it's something similar that, First Lady of the US, what she goes through. Of course, she's much more in the news, etc., etc. In fact, there's an incident in the book also when the first time press covered her, when they announced the engagement and she didn't know what to do, where to hide her face and how to behave, whether to smile, kind of thing. She also says that in the first few matches that I saw, I didn't know anything. So, I kept on smiling and clapping, and I didn't know whether I'm supposed to smile and clap or I'm not supposed to smile and clap. Till, over a period of time, I realized that, now is the time to smile, now is the time to look very, very kind of sad and things like that. And of course, now she's become an expert. And then she's written this book. So that in summary is this book. So that's my take on the book so far. So now let me, thank you. Thankfully, this is being recorded, so I'll show this to Ekla. Thank you. As always, I had something written and I didn't. Stories, yeah. So, okay. So, because of the nature of the book and the title of the book, we thought also we'll try and do something different. So, we thought, why not have two couples to share their unusual memoirs. Both of them have close to spend more than 40 years together. Like the Pujaras, here also all the four people in their early years were consummate professionals. They were working, they were well qualified, working everywhere. And then somewhere, as typically goes, somebody has to take a back seat, and therefore, in this case, the wives took a back seat, to support the husband, to support the kids, their education, their growth. And that's why we thought that, keeping the context of the book in mind, we'll have these. So please join me. Ramesh is sitting here first, so maybe I'll call Ramesh and Asha Virathur. I would have loved to introduce them, but I'll leave that to them because they are better to sort of say, because then, be there. And please join me in welcoming the Bildikers, Nandini and Ashok. You have a very vociferous audience here, so we need to manage them. Incidentally, she is the daughter and son, so. Okay, so we have to share a mic, Ramesh. So. Yeah. So maybe quick introduction of Asha first by her, and then you, and then we'll get going.
Hi, Asha Shanoy Mirakur. I was born in a family from Kerala, but my dad being in central service, we used to keep going around. And when I was doing my after my post-graduation in Calcutta, when I went to Bombay to do my research, that's when I met Ramesh. And being a Saraswat Brahmin, I have now married a original Saraswat Brahmin from Kashmir. So Kerala, Kashmir to Kerala, it is now, and my children are typical Indians in the sense that if anybody asks them which state do you belong to, they are practically stateless. Because, of course, Kashmir and they are migrants now. I mean, they've lost their place in Kashmir. And their father being stateless, they are completely stateless. But we are true Indians at heart. That's all right.
So what she didn't say is that she did her research in what is now called IIM Mumbai, NITI, where both of them met. And that research was in a field of energy. And then she went on to work with RBI. And one more, please. IIM to RBI, worked with the Deputy Governor, and was in charge of computerization. I mean, this is again very old computerization of all the bank branches and generating an MIS, automated MIS for RBI, which he has not mentioned. But I thought it is interesting. And that's where they met. Ramesh is family from Bits Pilani, not Mesra. Bits Pilani and Niti or I am Mumbai, and now we know where they met.
Well, I'll just fill in a few more details. You guys heard that I was born in Kashmir, and I did my engineering in Pilani, and then I went to Niti, which is now called IIM Mumbai, to do my 2-year master's in industrial engineering those days. I started my working career in Tata Motors in Pune. That was my first job. I worked here from 1980 to 1985, and thereafter I left Pune for all of 29 years, and 29 years later I found myself back in this city. Second time by choice. First time was really I had to go wherever I got a job. And in between, I went to Mumbai to work, and we'll talk more about all of that during this evening. I worked at Air Freight Limited, DHL Worldwide Express, Whirlpool, South Asia. Then I went to US and I worked at Computer Sciences Corporation. And I came back and I worked at, ran two of the global capability centers, as they are now called, in India, one in Hyderabad and then in Pune, called MasterCard India. And for the last 8 years, I've been enjoying Advait's company at TAI. I invest in startups, and I advise and mentor startups as a part of my professional life. Other than that, I travel a lot. Some of my friends say that we only come to Pune to change our laundry, do our laundry, change our suitcases, and then go on another trip, which is exactly the case this time, because we're here for 4 days because Advait had booked us this day, and we're about to start our next trip.
So whenever I meet Ramesh, I jokingly say, oh, you're on an Indian visa right now. So, okay. So we'll start with Nandini. Delhi and Jalna. You have to tell that story.
Delhi or Jalgaon?
Jalna?
He's from Jalgaon.
Jalgaon. Okay.
So
How did you meet?
it was very, very typical arranged marriage.
Okay.
I knew that I will not get a suitable boy in Delhi. So the next thing was a Pune, That particular time, we had eligible grooms available in Pune. So that's how, we met.
So Nandini also is an IT engineer. She
No, I'm not engineer. I did
IT professional,
yeah.
COBOL programmer, and so you can tell something more about yourself. And of late now, of course, and we'll come to that, significant voluntary work for Helen Keller Institute and many other voluntary kind of organizations.
See, that Helen Keller, it happened because we shifted to Mumbai. And I went to give some donations there, and somehow then I felt that money is not required here. What requires is your presence, your attention to that kind of kid. And that is how I joined them. It was very nice. I really enjoyed. But sometimes you feel sad about it.
Ashok runs a company called Niyamo, which is into payroll product and software. They work globally. They have a huge center in Pune, Chennai, Nagpur, and then he's Xavier and many other things.
I think just quick introduction. Come from we can call lower middle class family. Way back, I started my career at the age of 20. My first job was BST in Bombay, where I entered into computer programming in 1977. Worked hard way. My second job was in Pune, again 11 years. I worked with Philips here in India. Ajit was my colleague during that period. We had a lot of fun. Our office was in Dekhi. But I think over a period, there was hunger. There was definitely something to be achieved in the life. And my pivotal moment came when we shifted to Chennai, got opportunity to work in the industry. Today there is startup culture, a lot of companies have
starting and becoming successful. I started my venture at the age of 50. It was quite late, but I think fairly successful. Like Advait mentioned, uh, today my company is present in around 42 countries. In India, we have presence in Madurai, uh, Tanjore, Chennai. Here in Maharashtra, we are in Nagpur and Pune, of course, the large center. Uh, Growing at very aggressive rate. We have got almost worldwide leadership position in our space that we got it. Uh, I think it was a tough life. Started at very raw stage. Possibly you will hear some part of the stories, what why it started and wait.
Sure. So maybe I'll stick with both of you to start with. Initially, both of you were professionals working, etc., etc. So how did you go about your initial years in terms of managing both your careers, your professional life, and when did you and how did you decide that okay, now it's time for one of us to sort of take a backseat?
Yeah, actually, I did a CSI course and I started working as a COBOL programmer. And then I had an Anaga. Still, I was working, but when we shifted to Chennai, it was a very different city. So I didn't want to leave my daughter and go for a work because in around 89, 90, that time I think IT jobs, they needed a lot of time. It was not like work from home and all these things. You have to work from morning 8 o'clock till no time to come back. So the priority was my kids. So I thought that okay, it's fine. I sat at home and I enjoyed it.
Ashok.
I think there was a time I remember my boss or my guru, when Mr. G.S. Krishnamurthy came home and he was trying to convince Nandini that he should work. No? And I was there in the house when he came and jokingly I said, GSK, either she works or I work. I am very happy to be a house husband. I'll take care of my daughter if you want her to work. But one of us can work, one of us has to take care of the kid. So I think this was a choice, and I think Nandini took a better choice. And then I had to put on hard work, and she could take care of her. But I think it was also strength because as a nature, she is always a relationship building person. She has built very strong relationship in her life. And for her, taking care of her daughter and again having a second kid was a priority. And that's what I think was.
Talking of relationships, how did that start with you? I mean, of course, you met him, but how did it emanate from there and how did it move on?
So, first of all, I feel a little bit bad for all of you today. I got to thank you for coming and staying because very often when I come to Between the Lines, after Eklavya finishes his book summary, I feel like saying the best part of the program is over. So thank you for staying on. And today it's a double whammy because I know Advait did a great job, but you all will agree that nobody can match Eklavya. And I know Advait won't mind my saying that. So I appreciate you really staying today. Many of you would have read Chetan Bhagat's book. I don't know if you read the book Two States, or you watched the movie. The book was written in 2009. The movie was made in 2014. Chetan Bhagat was born in 1974. Frankly, if he had been born a little bit earlier and had stolen our story, I would have sued him. But given that he was born in 74, he couldn't have copied. But if you read the book or watched the movie, our story of how we came together is exactly what's described in Two States. Except, in the movie, the lead character was Krish. He's a Punjabi. I'm a Kashmiri, so a little bit further north. The Ananya, the female character, is from Tamil Nadu. Asha is from Kerala, so a little bit further south. So we're really a complicated, messed up family in many ways. And how we got together is kind of pretty well described in two states, like the characters in that movie. We were not rebels, so we took after we got to know each other and felt that we might have life together. It took us 5 more years to convince our respective families. Remember, this was 1980. This is not 2025. And I come from Kashmir. If any one of you here from that far north, in Kashmir, anybody south of Vindhyas is a Madrasi. So you can imagine my parents, my father saying, "ये लड़की को क्या हो गया? ये मद्रासी लड़की से शादी करना चाहता है." Okay, they don't know the difference between any southern state. So we took a good long time to convince them, but eventually we did come around. We did at some point thought we have to rebel, but it didn't come to that. So that's how we got together.
He had support, luckily, from his sister and brother-in-law and his brother.
Right. So we did have some support from my siblings, but definitely not my parents. So that's how we got together. So we've dealt with all of the difficulties. I would say most of the difficulties before we got married in terms of getting together.
Asha, with your parents, anything north of Vidyas are not Punjabis?
No, luckily no, because my father used to travel and he's worked in Delhi, and so he knows that there is something north of Delhi also.
So who convinced whose parents first?
In my case, luckily I didn't have much of convincing to do because my parents had already met him and they were convinced, sort of. So I didn't have much of a problem getting their access.
So Ramesh has always been charming since then.
So it was his parents,
actually
partly
blushed.
because culturally it was a big shock for them. I mean, if anybody's been to Kashmir, you would realize that it's literally a valley where, at least till 1989, there were very few people who had an exposure outside the valley. So my in-laws and fortunate thing is that Ramesh is an afterthought. So he was born when his mother was 35 or something. So the difference between him and his next elder sibling is 12 years. And the sibling after that is 15 years. So they were quite old by the time Ramesh reached an age where he could talk of marriage to them. And they were quite set in their ways, being in Kashmir. But I'm glad to say that they did come out and they did accept me. And then we moved on. And of course, the entrance of the kids makes life even more easier and simpler.
Easier and simpler or difficult? Post Chennai, how did life move on? Now one kid, then two kids, and what happened with his career, and how did you manage to support? And like I gave some incidents or anecdotes from the book, for every person in a corporate life also there are highs and lows, good days and bad days, good air days, bad air days. How did you manage that by managing him and the family?
Spending time with the kids was such a great fun, actually, I feel, and I really wanted a second child. So then I forgot that I'm not doing career. I forgot about football. Having second child was a fun, but yeah, there were a difficult time because Ashok was too busy. He was traveling so much that I don't think he knew which school, where they're going. It was a little difficult, possibly.
Remember the names?
That also happened once. But yeah, he was too busy. And there were times when I think Adish was not well. And I had to admit him in the hospital. Of course, actually, when I gave him a birth, while coming back, he just put one cab driver's number and he said, you can pay the bill and come back. And I'm talking truth, he also will agree. But I think all these incidences, they made me stronger and they made me confident. And yeah, I think that's all.
What went in your mind when you had to do this kind of thing? You know, when I had my first child and the first birthday of my daughter, I was there. Allegedly, I was not around for my second son's first birthday. Allegedly.
I think there was definitely a feeling of guilt in the mind always for me, for my son, because of I spent sufficient and enough time with my daughter when she was young, you know. But when I was in Chennai and I had kind of a responsibility and kind of a travel involved, specifically to the outside India, I could not spend that much time with my son. But I think I tried to compensate with the gifts to him. And I think he used to love when I used to return. You know, he would be at the airport at 2 o'clock waiting for me to see what I have got it for him this time. You know? So it was a different fun. Is definitely a busy life. But I think, see, I shifted from Chennai back to Navi Mumbai in 2004. And then I was the CEO of Hexaware Technology Group till 2008. And again, when I started thinking with my friends to start my own company in 2009, I realized that my primary base, business base, and my most of the relationships are there in Chennai. So I went back to Chennai to start the company. So today, also my company's headquarters is in Chennai. Okay, so Adish was born in Chennai. He had a schools. He has all his friends in Chennai. So Chennai still is a very, very deep rooted in our family in every aspect. And then post that in 2012, we decided to come to Pune to settle kind of a thing and live a peaceful life. But I realized that in business, there's nothing like peaceful life. You know, you're always stuck and you need to keep yourself on the toe. You know?
Okay. Ramesh, how did you manage? I'm not even asking if, I'm saying how did you manage the guilt?
I think I got to echo what Ashok and Nandini said. When our second child was born in Bangalore, she was still in the hospital, and I had to go away for a meeting. So one of my colleagues, had to take her home from the hospital because I wasn't there. So those are sacrifices you make. I would not say in retrospect right or wrong, but that's the way our life happened. And we lived apart. She was when she was working at Reserve Bank of India. She was posted in Bangalore. I had a good boss, so I could go back, and I've done work from home or remote work well before the concept of remote work was born. Because in the year 1990, she was transferred to Bangalore from Bombay, and I went to my boss and said, "I've got two choices. I can resign and figure out what to do." And we were expecting our second child. And he was very nice. He said, "Well, if you think you can work from Bangalore, go do it, try." And this was before internet. This was before email. This was before so many flights in a day. And he said, "Well, if you think you can work it remotely, this is your choice. You manage your job." And you do it. So I've done remote work well before the concept was born. And so I worked for a year and a half. I worked from Bangalore, but I used to have to get onto a plane those days, which was 3 or 4 flights in a day. Somehow get to Bombay whenever I needed to be for a meeting, including the time when the baby was born, but she was still in the hospital. So you just have to make those adjustments.
I think one gets used to it. Unfortunately for us, what happened was his job was steady, but my job kept moving me around. So when we luckily for me, my first posting was in Bombay, where the central office of the Reserve Bank is. So I could manage to stay there for a more time. And then when we were expecting our second child, I was transferred to Bangalore. But RBI is a very family-friendly organization. They give us housing whenever you're transferred like this. And till we could get the housing, which was about 2-3 weeks, I would go to the office and Ramesh would babysit our elder one and take care of her and do the thing. And then once we moved back, once we got a house, then I think he had a little more freedom to move around and do his job, his part of it, his office job, not his our domestic job, but his office job. Yeah, then he did it. But I think one gets used to it. After my delivery, when I was in the hospital, I was told that I have to go for a meeting. Initially, what happens is you never know when the baby will come. So the baby was supposed to come on November 30th, but he came on December 11th. So based on that, he had planned his meetings and all that, saying that, okay, by December 15th, things would be done. So I'll go for my meeting. And that was, I think, to Hong Kong. He had to go to Hong Kong. So he couldn't even postpone the meeting. So unfortunately, he came on 11th. And after he came, just to get me out of the hospital, somebody had to pay the hospital bills. So we had to request his colleague that, please get me out of here. But we had very good support system. And I'm very grateful.
You did mention that you did CSI and then Global Programming, but how difficult or easy was it to say that, I'm sacrificing my own personal, professional ambitions to support my partner? I mean, the kids happened, of course, but before that.
See, I did take it as a sacrifice. Because, one thing is there when I did COBOL and all that time the software industry was booming. All over there were jobs. And there was a choice to go for a job. But as I told you, the working culture was from morning to night. So that time when we moved to Chennai, I didn't have any support system where I can drop my child. When I was in Pune, one of my friends has to drop another to her and then go for a work and all that. But in Chennai, it was not there. It was such a different city. Now, of course, I love that city. But that time there was a language problem and so many problems. And that time that city would not accept you very easily also. So I just thought, okay, now, I thought sometime my daughter will grow, I might go back to work. As Ashok mentioned that, because that time that DSQ and Hexaware, they were making a new offices, that there were so many jobs. Our CEO also came home and he said, Nandini, you join the job. So it was very tempting. But then, looking at my daughter, I thought, no, that is a priority. She will not accept that. But that was fun, like when you say no, you're happy with that. And today I feel that I spend so much time with my kids, which possibly Ashok could not because of his job priorities and all that. So I was happy. It's okay.
So, Ashok, gifts was the answer to the guilt?
That is to second one. First one came in with a very, very tight constraint, and so I think both the kids grown up in the different environment, different parameters, and have produced the different kind of results altogether.
I didn't want to get into that. So now the question is, when you going back to that earlier thing that like there are always highs and lows kind of thing. So how do you, in your 40 years of relationship now, as a husband and wife, as partners, and I'm assuming now more of friends and kind of thing. How do you manage the highs and lows of each other's life, especially from a wife's perspective, that something might be happening great in his career or not so great one day, kind of thing. So what happens back end? What happens at home? It's easy to, like I mentioned, it's easy to say that he's done very good and some nice whatever kind of comes back home, this celebration. But I'm sure there have been many instances in all of your lives where things have not gone well or bad times happen, not just a question of one day. There are series of incidents or bad time or whatever. How do you, as a supporting partner, how do you do that?
Rasho,
Yes.
it's very easy. When he is in a tension, just leave him. Do not talk. Keep a silence at home, and cook a good Marathi food. So because see, beyond that, it's how can we? And I remember during those times there was a lot of travels, and it was a tough life because now I feel there are so many options for the people. They work from home, they go late. There were a time when he was dealing with the US clients. That time they were this wire phone. So he used to sleep in a hall and with a laptop, and they used to get up in the night to attend the calls and all that. So just you have to be supportive. You have to make noise and just be calm. If he's worked up, then you have to be calm. When one person is worked up, you have to really be calm, and that is the best support I think Ashok needs. Otherwise, nothing.
What about the other way around? You come back from home, come back to office, come back home from office very happy, and something has happened at home with the kids or something like that. And how do you manage that?
I think one thing, my nature, I never brought any of the office problem at home. I keep that isolation between the professional life and personal life and keep that gap very, very strict. To the large extent, I even don't discuss it because I don't want to disturb the environment. But yeah, other way around, if the situation, I think over the 22 years of marriage, no, our understandings are very, very strong. Even I look at her, I know whether she is upset or not. Nothing has to be talked about it. So it is all that over the period of maturity, you know that. And the best way, again, both of us adopt very well is that keep quiet if the other person is upset.
Incidentally, Pooja in her book has also written the same thing that, best is to leave him alone, give him his time, give him his space, and things hopefully will come to normal.
I think
does that happen here?
That is what is the mantra. To me, long relationship, if both are upset at the same time, it can cause damage. But if one is upset, other has to lie down or at least during that period, not to talk anything or get up and go somewhere else, kind of thing. And then come back after some time, everything is again all right, perfectly fine, kind of a thing.
The last thing to say is, why are you so upset?
Actually, when we were married, that time both of us were younger kids in our family, so they're very much pampered and all that. So we used to fight. And then after a while, I realized it doesn't work and it is of no use. So better one person should keep quiet and then only the things work in a better way.
Asha, how did you manage this?
Difficult question. No, the thing is, with Ramesh, initially, I mean, when he loses his temper or when he's upset, I used to think that going away and keeping away, and I still do it very often now by mistake. Thinking that, if I go away from him, he'll feel better a little. But later on, I realized that his personality is different in the sense that he has to get it out of his system. So the best thing to do is to confront him, find out what is his problem, and then let him get it out of his system, and then things calm down. So I suppose
has he always been a perfectionist like he is now?
Perfectionist? Oh yeah, he is. That's why even his clothes and all, I would put them on the bed, and he has to put them in his closet by himself because I dare not touch his clothes in the closet. And his office, I dare not. Even the servant needs to be very careful when she's dusting the place. We have.
So Ramesh, how did you manage the other side of things when she's upset?
Well, I always know where things are in my office. I don't want anybody to change the order. Interesting. I'll actually, if you those of you who read the book, and I follow a little bit of cricket, so this was an interesting book to read. By the way, it's a very easy book to read. I read the book on the flight from New York to Bombay 2 weeks back. It's a long flight, and the best part of a 15-hour flight is that you can eat food, you can sleep for a few hours, you can watch a movie, and you still have time left to do things. And I was able to finish most of the book on that long flight. So we are very different in many ways. So actually, on one of the pages on the book, and this is how Pujara describes her husband, and I'm going to tell you exactly this is true of her. That for a long time, and that's why she referred to that exchange, that he was blessed with he was never blessed. She is never blessed with the gift of the gab. I'll read as it is in the book. It says he was never blessed with the gift of the gab. If a smile can do the job, he will not speak. If a sentence can end in 3 words, he will not add another. If it's a two-edged sword, which can be very frustrating for me as his wife, but over the years I have learned to accept him in just the way he is, warts and all. It's kind of like her. She is exactly like Pooja describes her husband. And in fact, on another page, she says, my husband is an introvert. He finds it difficult to converse with large crowds, and that makes him uncomfortable. He enjoys his solitude and is happiest in familiar surroundings, spending time with the people he knows. Over the years, most of our arguments and differences have risen from my opinion that he needs to be more vocal and network better. Now, if you read, I've said, and very often now kids have fully agreed with this thing, that I've always said that she's, in terms of sheer cognitive intelligence, she's smarter than I am. But she's not willing to make the best use of it out in the difficult world. But there was a time before marriage she was going through a very difficult time through her changing. She could not complete her PhD. She was registered to do a PhD. She couldn't complete her PhD. So I was with her to say, let's change the line, and she did. She did, and it ended up working at the Reserve Bank from energy modeling to Reserve Bank of India. And she needed support during that process. We did. Conversely, when I wanted to get a different kind of experience, I was in 1998 when this country had opened up. I was working for a multinational. I was, I have to say, I was in a very great job as a CIO of a global company in India, and yet I just wanted a different kind of experience. And when I said I want to go work in the US, she was quite willing to say, let's do it. I will take a couple of years. We thought we'll take a couple of years. She'll take a couple of years break, and then we might come back. And of course, that never happened. But she was supportive. It was a very stressful period. It's not if you've been in a great job for 18 years and then you decide to chuck it all out and go to a completely different career and start at the bottom. And I went back to being a project manager and start at the bottom. It's very stressful. And I had been advised by some of my friends not to do it. But I was kind of crazy and said, no, I want to get a different kind of experience. She was very supportive. She went through the stress that goes along with that kind of a transition.
She's upset. How do you react?
In her case, it's probably best to leave her alone to deal with it, and then she doesn't get upset that often.
One more thing is, obviously, the relationships evolve especially over a long period of time, 40 years plus for both of you. How do you look at it, and how have you managed that evolving relationship between the two? Different stages in personal and professional life, relationship evolve, understanding of each other evolves. How have you managed that?
I don't have that's a very difficult question to answer. When you're 40 years together, you just go with the flow. You let things evolve. We've done a number of sometimes crazy things, like as I said, I quit a great job and went to the US, and that was a very stressful time. And then 15 years later, one day we decided to come back to India. There was absolutely no reason other than the family, and we went through another round of stress. But you just learn, you just let it evolve and deal with it on a day-to-day basis. My approach generally is that if there's a problem, confront it and handle it. Just confront it right away. Her approach sometimes is let it sleep for some time, and it might go away. But the fact that we haven't broken up in 40 years means we've figured out somewhere there's a balance.
I mean, just to add to what Ashok, sorry, what Ramesh has just said, that over 40 years you understand each other much better, etc. Is there a danger of taking each other for granted?
I don't think today also I can take anything for granted. Okay, that's not possible in any relationship. But I think, yes, maturity comes in. When we got married, Nandini was just 20 years old and I was 25. So it was like a child marriage. In today's definition, it is definitely a child marriage. But I think at that age, you also have capability to change yourself. And over the 42 years of our understanding has increased. Of course, it got evolved, but I think mostly it got changed once the entry of our kids came into our life. Those were the major milestones which change your whole perception about the life, about what you need, how you need. So everything has impact. And I personally believe that our relationship became more stronger after coming of our first kid, second kid, third kid. So all put together, it changes.
So, Nandini, going the family way, does that then become the career thing for you? And then the husband career is over, I want to do. Going the family with kids, you said, you were happy raising kids, kind of thing, spending time with them. Does that then become your main career in a way?
And let me address, I think when we got at a very young stage, it is just not our kids, but Nandini shouldered much larger responsibility because my brother's son, as well as my sister's son, also came and stayed with us. So it was like she was handling a big relationship and she was taking care of all the kids together. They were at a very, very young stage. They came to study because in Jalgaon there was not enough and proper ways of studying. But I think it was not that she was very mature and she was very elderly person and we had no other support, but she at a very young age took that responsibility of building the relationship, taking care of the kids, and that is her strength. I think she loves to do that over the period of time. I am observing that more and more, and today, if I look back, even professionally, I have so many people working with me for almost last 30 years, but they approach Nandini first rather than me, So it is other way around. They are professionally connected with me, but if they want anything has to be discussed indirectly with me. They will not talk to me directly. It will come via Nandini. So she has built those rapports and relationships, which has created not only at the personal level, but at even the company level, a very, very strong bonding. Bulk of our people at the senior management are for her like extended family.
Ramesh, little while back, Ashok mentioned that he doesn't bring the office part at home. There's a strict walls of personal life. What is your story?
So Asha and I've been, we met professionally in college. I always need a sounding board, even for a professional matter. In fact, very often, in my early days, she had done work in energy modeling. She had written papers, and when I was working in my first job after our marriage, quite often I would be required to write stuff which would get published. And I would go to her and say, can you review this paper? She's a statistician. She's highly qualified in statistics. And I would go back and tell her, look at this data. Can you? So we work professionally. Even now, we were discussing a professional matter. We get involved fairly in a professional discussion. So our relationship in that sense is while she does not work in the corporate world, but certainly in terms of the scientific data, we quite often talk to each other about it. And I actually, I more often than not use her as a sounding board, even for an idea that I'm proposing. Now, she might have a different view. I might quite often use her as a sounding board and then very much go ahead and do what I want to do. But at least gives me another viewpoint. So no, we do, and I have to say, for good or for bad, I have quite often carried work home. I have occasionally would ask her to help with like they said, reviewing, reading and stuff like that. So yeah.
What is it that most often, if you could recall any incident where you most leaned on him for any support, any incident, any anecdote?
No, the first was before our marriage. Like he mentioned, I was going through I call it my stillborn because I was trying to do my research, PhD equivalent, and it didn't work out. In those days, energy modeling, econometrics, and all was a very nascent field, and there was only one professor in the current IIM Mumbai who could guide me. And he had gone to California to present our paper, and he came back with a job for himself at UNDP.
Okay.
So, and he went off to Jamaica. So I had no guide virtually left to guide me with my PhD. So I had to give up my PhD, and then I joined IIM Ahmedabad on a research assistant position for a temporary thing, just as a stopgap because I had to move on. At that time, I really had to lean on him. And that is when I think our relationship really matured and we realized that this is how it's going to go forward. And after that, I got my RBI job and then we moved on from there.
Sure. And Nandini, what is any specific incident or anecdote where you learned from him?
Learned. Actually, he really felt I should learn from him. But he's very much disciplined person, very punctual and principled. But now I think I have learned being punctual and trying to be a little disciplined. He thought he will teach me, but I think now, okay.
So has he mellowed down or no? With age, as they say.
No. If we have any argument, it is on a a discipline only, I think so, not beyond. But no, I have learned a little bit now. I'm okay. Now I'm not as bad as I was.
And Ashok, any incident or anything that you've learned from?
I think a lot in terms of basically I mentioned the relationship management, and I'm sure that is her trait. He has a tremendous amount of perseverance. If he has taken the things in her hand, he will make sure that it happens. And it's not only for people who are in relationship with her friends, anybody who approaches her, he has nature to help. So I think a lot of things which I have learned from her is all about how to build a stronger relationship and how they last. Even last 2-3 years or so, I have seen magic of her relationship building skill with some of the most difficult people in even the government offices like municipal corporation or own hospital, or he has built her relationship. He maintains those relationships, and those people are ready to do anything for her, and that is with such a short kind of a period, which is matters a lot. And that is something which definitely I have learned, try to copy, not up to the mark yet, but I think definitely something which I learned from her.
Any time where you leaned on her for any advice or any inputs?
I think many times, means in a sense, she doesn't intervene or I don't share office things with her. But what happens, as I told you, there is a back channel communication. So many of my colleagues or from people from the office do communicate with her, and in such situation, definitely, if there is a complex scenario, then I later handle that because he is better off in that because these are software issues, something is going on in the life of my colleague, and which is a difficult portion. She's able to resolve those issues more effectively than to the official way manner because they ultimately affect you. Because when you work with any organization for longer term, and when you are specifically in a business, your immediate circle becomes like your extended family, and it is you cannot ignore that. It is not money is not the only thing by which people come together. They come with the strong bonding, and there are issues, there are matters which happens within their family, and they sometimes look after us as a senior member within the group to be able to help them and resolve those matters.
Ramesh, anything that you learned and leaned on?
Yeah, of course, I've learned a lot of things from her. I learned to be sometimes to be calmer, take it easy, and referring to the book, if you remember, Pooja talks about Chetisha never having taken a holiday. I came from a background when I was growing up, and there was no concept of taking holiday. Partly it was financial those days, but it was also the culture. It's not that her family was a lot richer than mine, but it's the culture. She was very clear right from the beginning that we should take a holiday once a year. And I learned that the value of a holiday. Remember how much Pooja talks about the value of a holiday or an alternate hobby. Talks about how Chitesha learned how to play video games because those are so much of stress relieving. So, for example, early on she said, once a week we should go out for dinner. It doesn't matter whether we go to an expensive place or we just go to a neighborhood restaurant, but it's just a change. So things like that, have had an impact. And also, she's still very good at, a number of young MBA students. I've got to tell you a story that after our second child went to college, I hope we're not going to have a fire alarm, but till we can speak on it. So she wanted to go back to work full time.
Okay.
So she said she wanted to go back to full time work. Yeah.
Yeah. Use this.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
The recording will be fine.
All right. Yeah. So she, and just as I described, she's a little bit of an introvert. She found a job, and I said, "Go ahead, try it." And she did apply. And while we talk about that in US there is no age discrimination and so on, that's not really true. No, they wouldn't call her for an interview just because she was over 50 by then. But I tried to tell her that you got it. She said, "Well, let it go." And I said, "Hold on." I knew somebody at the insurance company, somebody senior, and I went to him and said, "Brian, my wife saw this job, and she'd like this job." And she said, "Okay, get me her resume." And true enough, few days later, she got called, and she went for and they told her, "Oh, for this job, we normally there are much younger people who do, and you have to do a IM style 80 question quantitative test." And she said, okay. And when she finished the test, the recruiter came to her and said, oh, thank God you saved my job. What happened? You know, I know earlier we didn't call you. You got 79 out of 80 right. And if you had got all 80, you would have to go to meet our CEO, because that was their rule, that anybody who maxes the test, the CEO wants to see the candidate. And I would have had to explain why we didn't call you earlier. But you know, when I went back to Brian to thank him, he said, I didn't do anything. All I did is I told the recruiter there are unusual candidates. The recruiting system is designed to throw away candidates based on, right? Just interview the candidate. That's all I did. You don't even have to thank me. So, you learn. She can still beat me in any of those, quantitative tests.
Okay. Now, one question. All of you actually given the mention of younger people here. Now, everybody is career-oriented, career-minded, double income, no kids to start with, things as they call them. So, based on your own lifelong experience of 40 plus years, how do you grow together without growing apart?
In our case,
For the kids.
for the kids.
Advice for the kids, yeah. How do you grow together without growing apart?
Actually, nowadays kids are very smart, and we can advise, but I don't think they need that.
It's true.
Yeah, so I just tell them that, you have to give a space to each other, you should work, but the family should be first. Nowadays, I really feel that, in that race to achieve targets, like people are too busy with their works, and they don't come back and talk to each other, spend time. When you come back, then you have your own screen time, that is Netflix and all that. So they are not really good. And double income, no kids, somehow it is totally, I'm opposite. I feel you should have lot of kids. And nowadays kids, like this young generation, they don't want kids. Because of the kids, we have a bonding with each other. We have something to look forward. Otherwise, how much will you earn and what will you do with that? That is what I feel. Because even we have earned, and I think that's more than enough. Our needs are also not much. We are earning and we are increasing our needs. And then again, to fulfill that, again, we are spending more time in the offices. And that is for my own kids also, I say. That you have to have a family time, you should spend time together. That's all is my feeling, personal.
Asha, how do
I
you grow
think,
together without growing apart?
yeah, I think are you talking of that or talking of advice to the kids?
Advice to the kids, yeah.
Advice to the kids is easy to give. Yeah, I think I totally agree with what Nandini has been saying. The current generation, I mean the next generation to us, not the current, the next generation is more tech savvy, tech dependent, and they have less of interpersonal actions. They don't interact with the people on a face-to-face basis. Everything is with Facebook likes and emojis and other things.
Before this, in terms
Uh,
of relationship,
I think so. In a way, it was better. At least you knew the negative and the positive points of the person before you, went into depth or went into a more serious relationship. Whereas these days, I don't know how much can you see based on the technology as to how well do you know the other person before you really want to move on with that person. So that is it.
okay. Anyone? Any questions? Either from the kids or anybody here?
Can I ask a question
Yeah,
of?
yeah.
No,
Yeah,
they're like Narayan Murthy and Sudha Murthy.
Something too much.
No, I wanted to ask you a question because leaving a job which gives you a steady income, and going to start a company is a big step. So how did you both manage it? Because there must have been a lot of uncertainty with
At
it.
the age of
50. Yeah.
I think I would like to let everybody know, and I keep on telling, I come from lower middle class family, so initial period was really tough. It was basic need. I call it that roti kapda makan. That was the approach. Luckily, I got opportunity, and my boss wanted me to join him to start a company in Chennai, and I made that shift. I worked with DSQ Software as a second employee. Lot of responsibilities, achieved good success there for that company. Different promoter, of course. And then with Exaware, also another company. What happened, Isha, is that in two companies, I got stock options. And both the companies did well. So at the age of 50, yeah. So sorry, I think can you raise the one? I think yeah. So at the age of 50, I think economically I was very stable. I had enough amount of money to retire, and that was my thought process. I said, enough. I have done a lot of work. Now let's enjoy. But destiny is always different. My some of the colleagues who used to work with me say that, Ashok, you have a very unique skill. You have started 3 ventures and all the 3 became successful. Why not you do one more venture, and we will be part of it. So it will benefit all of us.
So,
and I said I was not interested much.
So your idea of retirement was starting a new company at the age of 50?
No. The new company happened a little bit later on. So I came back to Pune, and one of my, again, Philip's friend, Ramesh Joshi, I was talking to him. I said, this is what these people are saying, me to start a company. Now enough. I have achieved what I need. My needs are taken care of. My money is there. So he says, Ashok, truth is that if you don't want to work for money, it's fine. But you have a unique skill of generating a business, generating the employment, and that is very much required by our country. So think like this is a social service and start another company. Give a try. And that is the basis on which actually the Niyamo started. So it was not meant to be actually created. Luckily, again, we become successful, but on a history of the Niyamo, last 15 years, we have always hired people with a lower economic background and high talent and for people because we wanted to uplift the Indian society. We possibly created 8 to 10,000 jobs so far. So I think to large extent, I feel happy that what purpose for which I started has been achieved. And the risk perspective, I don't think there was a risk because I was pretty sure because having done 3 times, I said, fourth time it is going to work. There is nothing which is going to be a different formula which I adopted.
And Nandini supported you in this decision?
100%. She was all for it. Of course, it affected my kids a little bit because they had to shift from Navi Mumbai back to Chennai, from Chennai back to again Pune. So all those shiftings were little bit painful, more so for my son rather than my daughter, because he was in schools and all his friend circle he has to break 2 places that affects him. But I think from Nandini's side there was not much of a
See, when he say that we had enough money, so now again I can tell young generation, you have to think it is enough and that will be enough. Otherwise, there is no end to it, because when he left, there was a lot of pressure from Caliber Point people. They called me, he tell him to join back again, why and all that. So I said, for this reason, I'm okay. I will never ask him even once that you join back because as a CEO, he was earning fantastic. There was a very nice life, a different life. Again, you say, when you go again to start, you have to make definitely some compromises. And again, from Navi Mumbai, he went to Chennai. And that time, my son was in a 10th standard. I had my mother-in-law, all this. So it was a little difficult situation and decision. And my son always blames me for that. He said, "You always kept on moving me from Chennai to Navi Mumbai to again Chennai to Pune." I'm like, he feels that it is very difficult thing. But yeah, it worked out well. So,
Yeah, please.
So nowadays people are speaking a lot about living in relationships. They are saying marriage is going to die. They are saying that marriage as an institution is fading or going to die, and living in is the future. So what is your opinion and views or advice to this generation?
see, if you look at me, I'm very conservative person because I'm from Delhi, born and brought up, but I spend a lot of time in Chennai. So you can think that I'm really conservative. I feel while living here, means like what you want to test living together and what is wrong in then marriage. If you want to live together, get married and live together because see, marriages don't work on its own. You have to make it work. So in living, no, you keep one door open. So always you are ready with a bag. Arey nahi patta ke chal nikal yahan se kind of a thing. But in marriage, you have a commitment. So you try to adjust with that. You have a social pressure, I can say, or social expectation. Abhi nowadays I see that people are really within 6 months they are ready for a divorce. That is a different story. But if you compare a living and you want to live for a 10 years like in living, why not then get married? What is wrong in a marriage? Because nowadays people don't want a responsibility. And that is why they don't go for a kids.
So, if I may express a slightly different view than Nandini here, the world evolves. Marriage is really a legal institution. Okay, human beings have evolved over thousands of years. Actually, some estimates say almost 150,000 years is when the first humans appeared. And there was no institution of marriage for many years, yet the world went on and grew. So sometimes things go in a circle, but perhaps as humans, as long as we continue our current form of humans that we are, we don't know what will happen with technology. Humans have a need for companionship and partnership. So in whatever way that need is met, that's what's going to work. I personally think, marriage as an institution, particularly given that it is primarily a legal institution, it is fading somewhat because it's just become more permissible to have relationships. In fact, if you ask me, I advise all youngsters today, if they want to get married, sign a prenup. Given the nature of how the world is, they are better off having a prenup than not having a prenup. So just a different perspective.
Yes, please.
You have decades of experience, and so we are an engaged student. Can you give some guidance how we can grow career in corporate life successful like this?
And manage a relationship.
Well, something about that is, talking about relationships, ambition and partnership can go together. So, if you do end up in a relationship, respect your partner and your partner's desire to grow in his or her career. I don't think you have to trade one for the other. There may be times when you do it voluntarily. Even in our case, he volunteered. We were very clear that we were going to both work. We were going to both work and continue to build our careers. It just happened at some point because we moved to the US and we had a different cultural situation to deal with. She chose that she will take care of the kids. By the way, I have number of times when we disagree on that. I said I was happy to give up my job and look after the kids. And she said, no, you would not do a good job of it. But as young students, I would say, as long as you keep learning, keep yourself flexible, don't get opinionated too early in life, you will do fine. And in your life, you would probably have 3 or 4 or 5 careers. Be ready to change careers whenever you find there's a great opportunity. Don't get stuck in your thinking. As long as you keep your flexible mind, you will find opportunities. They may be very different than what you envisage when you join an MBA program.
I just want to add a couple of points. Number one, the hardship is extremely essential in your career. Okay, so they say that either you be lucky or you work hard. But to me, if you are not working hard, you being lucky also doesn't affect. So working hard is very, very essential. People have made a lot of memes and jokes about Narayan Murthy saying that 70 hours working. But if you go back and see almost our generation, all successful people, they have put that much of effort. Okay, we used to work like that. And that is the reason for which we came out from one strata of the social status to the next status. So if you want to be successful, be serious about it. Think about organization as in your organization. Work toward it, and try to. I do agree. Look at the opportunities, but don't look at opportunity at every year. That doesn't work. Actually speaking, nowadays, if the resume comes to me and I see that somebody has changed job 5 times in the last 7 years, I just throw that, because it is like a monkey jumping from one tree to another. He has not learned anywhere anything. In 1 year, you don't learn. At least in first job, typically I have seen it takes 3 to 4 years to minimum you to understand how is the corporate life and everything. Post that, possibly your mature thinking comes in about how much. So one of my mentor at early stage, he told me that in your career is going to be 40 years career. So you predetermine in 40 years how many job changes you are going to do. So if you do every year, are you going to do 40 job changes? Or are you going to do 10 job changes or 4 job changes? That you have to determine, and you have to plan your career effectively. So sometimes there are ups and downs, like in relationship, the ups and downs happens in the organization, ups and downs happens in the companies. But I think it is your thought about how you are going to deal. Just because some problem has come in one place, don't jump, because you will not get opportunity to solve that problem. Actually, problem happens in the organization. You should think that, oh my God, fantastic approach for my learning. I'm going to resolve this thing. I'm going to learn how to solve this problem so that I'm more qualified for the next opportunity in my career. Okay.
So Ashok, I'm assuming he inadvertently mentioned 3 to 4 careers in a year lifespan. I was going to ask him, lifespan is how many? 3 to 4 jumps in how many years? Maybe 3 to 4 years. And Ashok, for you, before we close, everything was going on smoothly for you also, till suddenly you became unpopular with the kids because you said work hard.
I'm sure as they are doing MBA, I know MBA colleges, the way they make the students work, I'm sure they're already testing it, correct? Am I wrong?
See, in career path of Ashok, as I have seen, see, if you work for a money, I don't think it will come. You do hard work, money definitely follows. And it has worked. I know that well.
Yeah.
I'll tell you an incident. We worked together in Philips, Ashok and myself. In the earlier days, we have seen from punch cards to now web technology. There used to be a few MBs, like 4 MB disk, 8 MB disk on a computer that time, which is 100 times there is now mobile now. Now, we have an IBM 1401 computer, punch cards and all in Philips, and
we had to hire a computer in Walchanagar Industries because they had got a data general computer of a higher version. Now, since they were working in the daytime, we had a night time. We had hired the computer in the night time. And we used to work in the full night there. Now, in the morning, after working the whole night, we used to go to that Good Luck Cafe and start our day. Now, I'll tell an incident where they had very early days in Bibbewadi, a far off place from Deccan Yamuna. They had a house, and because Nandini used to get scared sometimes, she used to come and sit with us the whole night, in the reception, there was a place. So these are the kind of the days we have spent in those days. So as Ashok says, there is no other way than hard work, and then only can become successful like this. Thank you.
Thank you. So on this note of hard work, let me thank all four of you for taking time out and spending your lovely stories with us. Thank you for coming here. Now it's a time, since we are in Pavilion Mall, let me do my mall duty now. Since this is a book-based thing, this is a slightly big book this time to the Bildikers, Nandini and you. Thank you. For people who don't know, there is a Pune-based perfumery called a Fragrance Story. There are sponsors for gift hampers. So again, what he has specifically told me, it's a what's it called, a unisex perfume. So thank you. Yeah, one. And normally I would have given it to the wife, but this is cooking wine. So.
I can do the cooking.
Thank you so much. Wonderful round of applause for our guests today. Thank you.
See, there are many MBA students here, so I would like to tell you one thing. See, when you start earning, try to give back to the society. And that gives you a pleasure. That's very important.
And there's one more from our partner, Hilton.
Oh, wow. आज का खाना है क्या?
आज का खाना है. Thank you so much. So thank you once again. Our next event is going to be on 10th of October, Karwa Chauth, for people who don't remember. Just one sec. This is the book that we are going to do. It's called CEO Mindset by Shiv Kumar. I'm still trying for him to be with us. Worst case scenario, he's anyway agreed to do a video interview, and I'll interview him and we'll play the Zoom recording that day. And then we have a fantastic guest, a gentleman, Pune-based, lovely CEO called Hemant Jalan. So he's managing director of Indigo Paints, and he's going to share his CEO story from being a private limited company to a funded company to a super duper 81 times oversubscribed public issue company now. So hopefully hope to see many of you there 10th of October. This is going to be in Sadhu Aswani Institute of Management in Koregaon Park area near Inlax Hospital or St. Mira's. 10th of October, 5 p.m. So be there. Thank you. And once again, thank you for being here. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.